That's a
I also like
Christian's
to
software. It's just great. It's just great. This is a very short presentation. It actually is sort of the beginning of what will most likely be a longer presentation next year. But it's a start because I've had a few questions recently about DOS and WinOS 2, and I thought it would be a good topic to cover. So right now, considering major operating systems, Windows 64-bit from XP 64-bit on up do not support 16-bit DOS sessions, 16-bit Windows. So if you were one of the lucky people to get XP 64-bit and run all 5 applications that would run on it, you found that you couldn't run any of your 16-bit Windows applications on it. And that remains the case up through now. And now, finding a 32-bit version of Windows 10 is sort of difficult. Windows 10 doesn't fit very well in 32-bit memory space. Because, you know, in Redmond, they think of sort of memory like closet space. You know, the more you have, the more you need to fill. So, on Linux, supposedly DOSBox 074 and newer can run Windows 3.1.1 in enhanced mode. Earlier versions could run 3.1.1 in standard mode, but not enhanced mode. But you can't multitask Windows apps in the same Windows session. So if you open up Program Manager, you're sort of like stuck with Program Manager. You need to open up each Windows application individually to run in DOSBox. And there are some other issues, there are some performance issues with it and everything else. However, oddly enough, ArcaOS, because it's based on OS 2.4.5.2, can run DOS and Windows 3.1.1 in 386 enhanced mode with multitasking in a full screen session on the OS 2 desktop just fine, thanks to the OS 2 native DOS VDM, which is an excellent implementation of IBM PC DOS. So we find ourselves in the unique position that after all of this time, things have come full circle, and we now find ourselves not only a better DOS than DOS and a better Windows than Windows, but the only DOS and the only Windows 3.1. So if you have a dependency on DOS applications or Windows 3.1 applications, we're sort of it. Interestingly enough, there is a French airport that has air traffic control software that still runs on Windows 3.1. And I'm trying to get hold of that. They had an issue. It may be Orly. I really don't recall now. But I'm trying to get hold of them to talk to them about this because
their hair out because the air.
Well, you know, aside from being able to run this stuff, we can really secure ArcaOS fairly well on a modern network with modern networking connectivity and firewall, much better than a native DOS Windows 3.1 machine could be secured running on that same network and still be able to run all of those applications. And you'll rarely hear me use the word legacy. I hate that word. Legacy, that's a 4-letter word to me.
Legacy.
An application that's been running for 20 years and still runs and doesn't have any bugs is not legacy. It's mature. It's mature.
Like that, like your definition.
Typical DOS issues that you're liable to encounter with different hardware. DOS sessions may open, not accept keyboard input. David talked before about the VIOP.sys driver. I'm going to talk about that a little later on here. You may find this with the you may find, not only, David mentioned the symptom where you open up the session, a full screen session, there are just 2 characters in the upper left corner and nothing else. Sometimes a full screen session will open and it'll look completely normal, but you type and nothing happens.
Oh, no.
Nothing happens at all. That's that VIP.sys driver. Sometimes the VIP.sys driver will correct that, but a DOS window will still behave badly. Open up 2 characters, and when you type, you can see that you're typing and your characters are typing one on top of the other. And they just keep changing to the last character that you typed. It just doesn't extend. DOS sessions may result in high CPU load. This may have been fixed with the 3.23.10 ACPI. That may have been one of those interprocessor communication issues that we were seeing. The same thing was causing the hang in the full screen sessions. I don't know. You attempt to start a window DOS session, and then you get a message: this program cannot be run in a Windows session. These are typical things that you may run into. Full screen DOS sessions, you're running Snap, and you go to the Snap text mode utilities to test the graphics modes and whatnot, and it opens up in VGA mode, 50 lines by 80 columns across, but the brightness is about half of what you'd expect. There's no way to make it any brighter. Sometimes the system won't properly return from a full screen session. You'll exit the full screen session and the system will just sort of blink and it won't get all the way back. Sometimes the video update gets really funny. It's very noisy. The screen gets very choppy. And this is a real common one now. DOS sees no available space and drives greater than 2 gigabytes. That's actually a bug in the Borland compiler that was used to build a lot of DOS software. And the Borland compiler doesn't see drives bigger than 2 gigabytes. So anything that was compiled with it will say that your drive is either out of space or it has negative disk space left. I mean, I guess that means that you owe space to your disk, right? So some fixes. The VIP.sys driver, which is experimental, that's the URL to get it. We weren't really going to make it available to the general public because we knew that it was really a learning exercise. We discovered the apparent basis of that issue on the ThinkPad T520. And this driver was built specifically to work around that issue on the T520. We knew that it also applied to the T530 and apparently T540.
I think so. Let's just check here.
But we really didn't expect it to work on really any more machines than that. But it has worked on probably a half dozen to less than a dozen different systems with apparently similar video BIOS. And it works around a shortcoming in the VSVGA.sys driver. So what we did was, it's available, if you've got ArcaOS credentials for the main site, you can go to that URL and download the WPI and install the driver. Install the driver, and it's a virtual driver, so give it a reboot after that and open up a DOS full screen session and see if it works for you. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it's not going to work, and then you can uninstall it because it's not going to help you anyway. If you've got high CPU utilization, sometimes that's caused by a DOS application polling for keyboard input constantly. Some DOS applications were written to do that. Remember, DOS is a single processing, single tasking operating system. So it can pull the keyboard constantly because it's the only thing that's ever going to get anything back. But in a multitasking environment, that doesn't really work very well. You know, it's like when you've got little kids, daddy, 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 and that's fine when you're the only one in the room, but when there are 20 people around you and you're trying to carry on a conversation, it doesn't work very well. So Tame throttles that down and lowers the noise. It's I don't remember whether Tame is commercial or it's free. I think it's commercial. It's commercial, but it's not an expensive application. I got a license for it ages and ages and ages ago, and you know I've used it forever because we had one of those badly behaved applications in the office that just needed it, and the same thing with MoSlow. Sometimes you have DOS applications that were written that depend on hardware timing loops for the 4.77 megahertz IBM XT. And all of a sudden you run on a 3 gigahertz machine and the thing is moving so fast you can't even read the screens because they're just flying by so fast. MoSlow allows you to add loops, timing loops, so it slows the thing down to make it work on your system. It's very customizable. And again, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but if you've got DOS applications that misbehave, you can launch them and everything, but they do either of those issues, it's well worth the investment for those couple of programs. The disk full thing, the v2gb.sys driver from, that's Bob Eager's driver, it's very handy. There are DOS TSRs. There's one by John Hall, written in the 90s. But again, it's a DOS TSR, so it's going to take up memory in your DOS sessions. One of the nice things about v2gb.sys is that it installs as a virtual device driver in config sys. It's loaded at boot time. It's available for all of your DOS sessions. And if you do happen to have a DOS application that objects to it in some way or another, it actually adds a new DOS setting to your DOS settings page in the Workplace shell, and you can turn it off. So it's extremely flexible. It doesn't utilize your precious DOS memory. And I was going to add some more issues here, and I just ended up with writer's block, and I just sort of got stuck. So I'll talk extemporaneously for a couple of minutes about other issues like audio in WinOS 2. So if you have a machine that has a recognized audio adapter recognized by WinOS 2, like a Sound Blaster 16, you will have audio in your WinOS 2 sessions. That's not a problem. But if you have a system that's got an AC97 audio or an HDA audio, and you're using UniAud, you won't have audio in your WinOS 2 sessions. We licensed the data transfer agent software from Dr. John Gao, which is a utility that he wrote that allows us to map WinOS 2 audio through to UniAud, and we'll play that. So if you have a modern audio chip that is supported by UniAud, and you want sound in your WinOS 2 sessions, not ArcaOS 5.04, but by ArcaOS 5.1, we will have the DTA installed with the system, and you'll be able to get audio in there. And it will be a seamless, we'll do that as part of the regular install, and it'll just be there. You'll just have audio. Yes, sir?
I don't think that's been updated in a long time. Are you planning to update that?
Yes, we are planning to update that. It has not been updated in a long time. Yeah, that's it, and there are some interesting quirks about the build that we have right now. So, for instance, if you configure WinOS 2 sessions for seamless operation, you'll get your OS 2 startup sound if you have that configured when your desktop starts, and then that will be the last sound you hear out of the machine until you open a WinOS 2 session and close it. If WinOS 2 is configured for seamless operation. If it's configured not to run seamlessly, then everything works just fine. So that was the first bug that I added to our bug tracker for DTA. But it works, other than that, I mean, the sound quality is really excellent. And it doesn't hog the CPU when it's playing back. There is apparently an entire niche market that we have just begun to scratch, which is the retro gaming market. There are a lot of people who truly enjoy playing DOS and Win31 games. And we are the platform to do it. We are the only platform on the planet where you can do that and get a close to original feel for the game. And let me tell you something. You run something in Windows 3.1 under ArcaOS on a modern machine that's running at 3 gigahertz on 4 processor cores, and all of a sudden what seemed like it was very heavy for Windows 3.1 is like nothing. It's an amazing experience. It's like Windows 3 the way you never thought it could have ever been.
Lewis, we're running down on time. So.
Good. Any questions about DOS sessions?
So
WinOS 2?
the sound in Windows sessions.
Yeah.
What's an example of that? You're trying to play a CD using a Windows CD player or something?
You're trying to play a Windows game,
Ah.
and there's audio in the Windows game, and you don't hear anything.
And it won't talk to you.
Won't talk to you. And there are no subtitles.
And when you talk to it?
And when you talk to it, nothing happens either. Now, I think that, I don't know whether I think that the DTA should also handle microphone input as well. I think it's two-way. But I haven't tested that yet. So I should try the Windows Sound Recorder and see if that works. Because I have it running in the T520, and it's fabulous. I mean, I was blown away by it. It was for a beta quality build. It was amazingly finished.
Are you running the one that was around forever?
No, I'm running John's last build that was not publicly available.
Oh, okay. No, that was a while ago, though.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, you know,
Okay.
it's no youngster. It's been around for a while.
Right. No,
It's been around for a while.
Someone we know gave me one, so yeah.
But it runs beautifully on the T520. And I was really not aware that was an issue because on the T43 I have native audio support.
Right.
I've got a Crystal Semi chip in here, so I didn't even know that WinOS 2 sessions didn't play on other machines, and it was brought to my attention that no, if you're using UniAud and you're using UniAud because there isn't a native driver, then you're not going to get sound in WinOS 2. I had no idea. No idea. But on the T520, it's crystal clear. No crackling, no stuttering, no high CPU when it's playing like continuous streams through. It's effortless. It's really, really nice. So that's going to be part of ArcaOS 5.1.
Have you tried other communities like the free DOS communities, or there's another?
There's that free thing again. We sell a proprietary operating system. Free doesn't pay our bills.
I mean free as
I mean,
freedom.
we want free stuff.
Free as
Don't
freedom,
get me
no,
wrong.
free as freedom.
We want to sell other people's free stuff.
Yeah,
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple. It's a very simple business model.
Is that right?
That's what the Russian says. That
Yes.
open source is evil capitalism.
That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because you grab what poor developers
That's
create
right.
and sell it. No, it's a joke, just in case.
I have not talked to the FreeDOS
Yeah.
guys. Should
And,
probably do
yeah, and there are another project about trying to make a Windows 3.2 interpreter. He called it emulator, but he's trying to make
Twine?
No, that's
Okay.
a different thing. There was a guy trying to make an emulator for Windows 3.1, which
Mhm.
was more like an interpreter because it's not using a Microsoft binaries.
Wine. Wine is not an
No,
emulator.
no, yeah, well, no, that was another one, right?
I haven't reached out to any of those people yet, but
Okay.
I will at some point. You say we're running up against time?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We
I'm all done.
want to have a couple minutes to switch over, so.
Good,
Okay,
good.
thank you.
You bet.
All right.
You bet.